Welcome to Abyss of Horror. Before we begin, make sure you're all snug in bed, preferably with the lights out, and be prepared to enter the dark sleep realm while you listen to this new spine-chilling tale. The house that learned my name. The first wrong thing was the light, not a dramatic light, not the kind that flickers in haunted houses or swings from a basement ceiling in a horror movie. It was just the small rectangle of brightness beneath the bathroom door. At 3:17 in the morning, Mara Collins woke up to it. She lay still in the dark, listening. The apartment was silent except for the whisper of rain against the window and the low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Her bedroom was black, the kind of black that made familiar shapes become suspicious. The chair in the corner became a crouched figure. The laundry basket became something with hunched shoulders. The mirror on the closet door reflected nothing but darkness, yet somehow seemed awake. Mara blinked. The bathroom light was on. She had not turned it on. That was what bothered her. She lived alone on the fourth floor of an old brick building with pipes that complained at night and neighbors who stomped like giants. She was used to noises, used to creaks, used to hearing muffled laughter through walls and the distant sirens of the city. But she was not used to waking up to a light she knew she had turned off. For a long minute, she told herself there were simple explanations. Maybe she had left it on. Maybe the switch was faulty. Maybe she had gotten up half asleep and didn't remember. That last thought made her stomach tighten. She sat up slowly, letting the blanket slide down to her waist. The air in the room felt colder than it should have. Her phone sat on the nightstand, charging. She picked it up and checked the time again. 3:18. No missed calls, no messages, no alarms. The bathroom door was in the short hallway outside her room. From where she sat, she could see the strip of pale yellow light under the door, thin and steady. Mara whispered, "Hello?" Her voice sounded stupid, tiny, embarrassing. No answer. She reached for the lamp beside her bed and clicked it on. Warm light filled the room. The chair returned to being a chair. The laundry basket became laundry. The mirror was just a mirror. That helped. A little. She stood, grabbed the heavy ceramic mug from her nightstand, and stepped into the hallway. The bathroom door was open 2 inches. She stopped. She was certain she had closed it. She always closed it. It was one of those pointless little habits people collect when they live alone. A tiny ritual that makes a home feel controlled. Bathroom door closed. Closet door closed. Chain lock on. Phone plugged in. Sleep sounds playing. Lights off. Every night. She held the mug tighter. "Is someone there?" Nothing. The rain whispered. The refrigerator hummed. Mara nudged the bathroom door open with her foot. The light above the mirror glowed. The sink was dry. The shower curtain hung still. The little frosted window above the toilet was closed and locked. Her toothbrush sat in its cup. Her towel hung from the hook. Everything was normal, except the mirror. Across the fogless glass, written in a thin smear of toothpaste, were 3 words. "Go back to bed." Mara did not scream. For one terrible second, her body forgot how. She stared at the words until they began to blur. The toothpaste was white and uneven, dragged by a finger. The last letter of bed trailed downward, as if the hand had slipped. Her first thought was not ghosts. It was not monsters. It was... someone was here. Someone had been in her bathroom while she slept. Mara backed out of the doorway, almost tripping over the rug. Her breath came fast now, loud enough to sound like someone else breathing with her. She ran to the front door. The deadbolt was locked. The chain was in place. The extra sliding bar she had installed after the break-in downstairs was still shut. The windows were locked. The fire escape outside the living room window was empty, slick with rain. She checked under the bed. Inside the closet. Behind the shower curtain, even though she had just been there. Every movement felt like an invitation for something to grab her ankle. There was no one, but the message remained: "Go back to bed." Mara called the police. They arrived 40 minutes later, two officers with wet jackets and tired faces. They checked the apartment. They checked the door. They checked the window locks. They asked if she had an ex-boyfriend, a roommate, enemies, mental health concerns, sleeping problems. The questions made her feel smaller each time she answered. No ex with a key, no roommate, no enemies, no history of sleepwalking, no drugs, no drinking. No, she had not written it herself. One officer photographed the mirror, the other examined the toothpaste tube, which sat uncapped on the sink. Mara remembered leaving the cap on. She remembered because it annoyed her when she didn't. "There are no signs of forced entry," the older officer said. He said it kindly, which made it worse. "So what does that mean?" "It means we can file a report. You should change your locks if you feel unsafe. Maybe set up a camera." "If I feel unsafe," Mara repeated. The officer sighed. "I didn't mean it like that." But he had. After they left, Mara did not go back to bed. She sat on the couch until sunrise with every light on, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and her phone in the other. At 7:42, she called in sick. At 8:15, she ordered 2 indoor security cameras. At 9:03, she scrubbed the words from the mirror until her hand hurt. That should have been the end of it. It was only the beginning. The cameras arrived the next day. Mara placed one in the living room facing the front door and hallway. The second went in her bedroom, angled toward the door. She felt ridiculous while setting them up, like she was overreacting, like she was exactly the kind of woman people whispered about after the police left. Still, that night she slept with the lamp on. The next morning she checked the footage. Nothing. She watched herself enter the bedroom at 11:06 p.m. She watched herself read in bed. She watched herself turn out the lamp at 11:48, though she kept the hallway light on. She watched shadows shift as cars passed outside. No one entered. Nothing moved. She exhaled. Then she saw the timestamp. At 3:17 a.m., the bedroom camera glitched. The screen went gray for 4 seconds. When the picture returned, Mara was sitting upright in bed. Her eyes were open. She was staring directly at the camera. Mara froze. In the video, she did not blink. She did not move. Her face was slack, empty, almost peaceful. She sat like that for nearly a minute. Then she turned her head toward the hallway, slowly, as if listening to someone speaking from the dark. At 3:19, she lay back down. Mara watched the clip 12 times. She had no memory of waking. She had no memory of sitting up. She had no memory of staring into the camera with that dead patient expression. By noon, she had convinced herself it was stress. People did strange things in their sleep. Sleepwalking, night terrors, anxiety, exhaustion. She had been working too much, drinking too much coffee, spending too much time alone. There were explanations. There had to be. That evening, she bought a chain for her bedroom door, one that could only be latched from inside. She installed it herself, badly, stripping one screw and scraping her knuckle raw. When she finished, she stood back and looked at it with satisfaction. If she was sleepwalking, she would wake herself trying to open the door. If someone else was inside, they could not get in without making noise. She slept with the camera recording. At 3:17, the footage glitched again, this time for 11 seconds. When the image returned, the bedroom door was open. The chain hung broken from the frame. Mara was gone. The bed was empty. The room was still. At 3:22, she walked back in. Not ran, not stumbled, walked. She entered from the hallway wearing her blue sleep shirt, barefoot, hair loose around her face. Her eyes were open, but she looked wrong. Not frightened, not confused. Blank. In her right hand, she held a black marker. She climbed into bed, pulled the blanket over herself, and went to sleep. Mara nearly dropped the phone. She did not own a black marker. She searched the apartment and found it on the kitchen counter beside a glass of water she did not remember pouring. On the fridge, written in neat black letters, was a sentence. "You locked me in with you." This time she screamed. Her neighbor banged on the wall. Mara spent the next 3 nights at her sister Lena's house. Lena lived 20 minutes away with her husband and 2 children in a bright, cluttered home that smelled of crayons, laundry detergent, and toast. Mara slept in the guest room with the door open and the hallway light on like a child. For 2 nights, nothing happened. Lena was gentle at first. "You've been under pressure," she said over coffee. "Work, the apartment, everything. Maybe you're doing it in your sleep." Writing messages to myself. People do strange things. Breaking a chain lock? Lena looked away. On the 3rd morning, Mara woke to her niece screaming. Lena found it in the upstairs bathroom, written on the mirror in pink bath crayon, in letters tall enough for a child to read, "She doesn't sleep alone." After that, Lena stopped saying stress. Mara checked the camera footage from the guest room. She had set her phone on the dresser, recording through the night. At 3:17, the screen went black. No static, no glitch, just black. The audio remained. At first, silence. Then a whisper, so soft she had to hold the phone against her ear. "Mara." Her own voice whispered back, "No." Another whisper, "Mara." Then her voice closer to the phone this time. "I said no." The black screen stayed black for 2 minutes. Then came one more sound, a soft laugh. Not Mara's. She moved into a hotel, a cheap place near the highway where the carpets smelled damp and the hallway ice machine groaned all night. She paid for 3 nights in cash because some part of her believed using a card made her easier to find, though she could not have said by whom. That was when the email started. The first arrived at 3:17 a.m. No sender name, no subject, just one sentence. "You forgot to check under the bed." Mara stared at the screen until the letters seemed to crawl. She looked at the gap under the hotel bed. Nothing but darkness and carpet dust. She did not check. The second email came the next night. "You breathe differently when you pretend to sleep." The third, "You always look at the door first." Mara changed her email password, then her phone password, then every password she had. She enabled 2-factor authentication. She factory reset her phone, bought a cheap prepaid one, turned off location services, covered the hotel room's smoke detector with tissue because it had a tiny black dot in the center that looked like a camera. She barely slept. When she did, she dreamed of a house she had never seen. A narrow hallway, yellow wallpaper, a door at the end that breathed in and out, swelling like a lung. Behind it, someone whispered her name over and over, with the loving patience of a mother calling a child inside. "Mara, Mara, Mara." On the 4th day, she saw a sleep specialist. Dr. Havel was a thin man with silver glasses and a voice so calm it made Mara want to shake him. He listened without interrupting as she explained the lights, the writing, the cameras, the emails, the whispers. He did not laugh. That helped. He asked about childhood trauma, family history, medications, sleep paralysis, dissociation, stress, blackouts, missing time. Then he said, "I'd like to run a sleep study." "You think I'm doing this?" "I think something is happening while you sleep." "That's not the same thing." "No," he said, "it isn't." The sleep clinic was cleaner than the hotel and somehow more frightening. Wires were attached to her scalp, chest, arms, and legs. A camera watched from the corner of the room. A technician told her to relax, as if relaxation were something that could be ordered like tea. Mara lay in the narrow bed and watched the ceiling. "I don't want to sleep," she said into the room. A speaker crackled. "We're right here." That did not comfort her. At 3:17 a.m., every monitor in the sleep lab lost signal. Only for 32 seconds. When the feed returned, Mara was sitting upright again. The wires had been pulled from her skin. Her nose was bleeding. The technician entered the room, frightened now, no longer professional. On the wall above the bed, written in blood from Mara's own finger, were the words, "Stop showing them." The sleep study report called it an episode of nocturnal dissociation with self-directed writing behavior. Dr. Havel spoke carefully. "Mara, I believe you may be experiencing a rare parasomnia combined with stress-induced dissociation." "And the emails?" "I can't explain the emails." "And the voice?" He folded his hands. "The mind can create convincing sensory experiences under extreme sleep deprivation." "You don't believe me?" "I believe you are terrified." People always thought that was enough. Mara went back to her apartment because she had nowhere else to go. It felt different now. Not because anything had changed, but because she knew the place had seen her afraid. The rooms seemed to hold the shape of her panic. The bathroom mirror reflected her with dull pity. The hallway stretched longer than it had any right to. She bought more cameras, 5 in total. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom door, front entry. She bought a door jammer, window alarms, a motion sensor, a carbon monoxide detector, though the old one worked fine. She taped a strand of hair across every door and cabinet, like she had seen in spy movies. She sprinkled flour in front of the bedroom door to catch footprints. That night, she did not sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with a thermos of coffee, watching all 5 camera feeds on her laptop. 2:11, 2:43, 3:06. Rain began again. 3:16. Mara's eyes burned. Her hands shook. She whispered, "No." 3:17. The laptop screen froze. All 5 feeds stopped at once. Mara slapped the keyboard. "No, no, no, no." Behind her, from the dark hallway, a floorboard creaked. She turned slowly. The hallway was empty. Then the bathroom light came on. Mara stood so fast the chair fell backward. She grabbed the knife from the table. The bathroom door was closed. Light glowed beneath it. A shadow moved across the crack at the bottom. Not walking, crawling. Mara's throat closed. The shadow paused beneath the door, as if something on the other side had lowered itself to the floor and was peering out through the narrow gap. "Mara," whispered a voice. It sounded exactly like her. She backed away. The bathroom door opened 1 inch, 2, 3. The mirror inside reflected the hallway, and in the mirror, standing behind Mara, was a woman. Mara spun around. No one. She looked back at the mirror. The woman was still there. Not a ghost, not transparent, not decayed. She looked like Mara. Almost. Same hair, same sleep shirt, same face. But the expression was wrong. Too still. Too empty. Her eyes were open wider than eyes should be, as if she had not blinked in days. The mirror, Mara smiled. Mara screamed and swung the knife into the mirror. Glass exploded across the sink. The reflection shattered. When the police arrived, they found Mara sitting against the bathtub, barefoot in broken glass, laughing and crying at the same time. There was no intruder, no footprints in the flour except hers, no sign of forced entry. The cameras had all stopped recording at 3:17 and resumed at 3:23. During those 6 minutes, according to the living room camera, the apartment had been empty. Mara had not been in the frame. But at 3:24, she appeared in the hallway, bleeding from both feet, carrying the knife, whispering something to herself. The police enhanced the audio. She was saying, "I am not the one who wakes up," over and over. "I am not the one who wakes up. I am not the one who wakes up." Lena begged her to check into a hospital. So Mara did. Not because she thought she was insane, because she was beginning to hope she was. There are few comforts greater than madness when the alternative is that something impossible has learned your schedule. The psychiatric unit was locked, fluorescent, and calm in a way that felt rehearsed. Nurses checked on her every 15 minutes. She had no shoelaces, no belt, no phone charger, no mirror. Her room had a camera. Her bathroom had no door. For the first time in weeks, Mara felt watched in a way that made her safer. She told the psychiatrist everything. The psychiatrist prescribed sleep medication. Mara refused it. "I can't sleep," she said. "You have to. That's when it happens. Sleep deprivation will make this worse. What if sleep is the door?" The psychiatrist wrote something down. That night, Mara lay awake under a thin blanket and listened to the unit breathe around her. A patient coughed down the hall. Rubber soles squeaked. Somewhere, a television murmured. She watched the digital clock. 3:12, 3:13, 3:14. She began to cry silently, ashamed and exhausted. At 3:16, the hallway lights dimmed. At 3:17, every door on the unit unlocked. Mara heard them click one after another. Click, click, click. Then the intercom turned on. Static hissed. A voice filled the hall. Not loud, not dramatic. Gentle. "Mara Collins, please return to your room." She was in her room. The voice repeated. "Mara Collins, please return to your room." A nurse shouted somewhere. Footsteps pounded. Someone began screaming. Mara sat up. At the foot of her bed stood the other Mara, the almost Mara. She was barefoot. Her feet were wet, leaving dark prints on the floor. Her hair hung over one side of her face. She wore the same hospital clothes. She looked tired, so terribly tired. Mara pressed herself against the wall. "What are you?" The other Mara tilted her head. "When you were little," it said, "you used to wake up scared." Mara stopped breathing. No one knew that. "You would call for your mother," it continued, "but she worked nights, so you learned not to call. You learned to lie very still." Mara's eyes filled with tears. The thing took one step closer. "You made a place inside yourself, a quiet place, a dark room where fear could sit without bothering anyone." "No. You built me there." Mara shook her head. "You are not real." The other Mara smiled with her mouth closed. "I am the part that stayed awake." The room seemed to shrink. "You locked me in," it whispered. "You grew up. You got a job. You paid rent. You made friends. You learned to laugh at lunch. You learned to say, 'I'm fine,' so well that everyone believed you." Mara covered her ears. But I was still there, in the dark room, listening. "No. And every night when you went to sleep, I came closer to the door." The thing leaned down until its face was inches from hers. "I don't want to hurt you." Mara could smell rain. "I want to turn." The light snapped on. The room was full of nurses. Mara was alone. She was screaming. They sedated her. When she woke, it was morning. The staff told her there had been a power flicker. The doors had not unlocked. The intercom had not turned on. No one had entered her room. But a nurse named Colleen would not meet her eyes. Later, when no one else was listening, Colleen whispered, "I saw you in the hallway." Mara gripped the blanket. "I was in bed." "I know," Colleen said. Her face was pale. "That's why I didn't tell them." She was discharged 6 days later with a diagnosis she did not believe and medication she did not take. For a while, things improved. Not because the presence vanished, but because Mara made rules. No mirrors after dark, no sleeping before sunrise, no caffeine after noon, because exhaustion needed to be controlled, not chaotic. Cameras stayed on. Doors stayed open. Lights stayed low. She learned to live like a woman sharing her home with a dangerous animal. Then, one Friday evening, Lena came over with groceries and forced brightness. "I'm staying tonight." "No." "Yes." "Lena, please." "You can't do this alone." Mara almost laughed. That was the problem. At 2:48, Lena fell asleep on the couch. Mara sat in the armchair watching her sister breathe. The apartment was quiet, warm, almost normal. At 3:17, Lena opened her eyes. She sat up slowly and looked toward the hallway. Mara's skin went cold. "Lena." Her sister stood. "Lena, wake up." Lena walked past her into the bathroom. The light came on. Mara followed, shaking. Lena stood before the mirror, staring at herself. Then she raised one hand and began writing with her finger on the glass. There was nothing on her finger. No toothpaste, no blood, no soap. But letters appeared anyway, dark and wet, forming one by one. "She made room for me." Mara grabbed Lena's shoulders and pulled her back. Lena woke screaming. The message remained. They left the apartment that night and never returned. Mara moved to a smaller town under the suggestion of her doctor, who called it reducing triggers. She rented a little house with yellow curtains and a garden full of weeds. No shared walls, no neighbors overhead, no old pipes groaning like voices. For 3 months she slept. Not well, but enough. She began taking walks. She answered emails. She called Lena every Sunday. She even bought a mirror, a small one, and kept it in a drawer like something tamed. The last recording was found on her phone after she disappeared. It was taken at 3:17 a.m. The video shows Mara sitting at her kitchen table. She looks calm, her hair is brushed, she is wearing a gray sweater. The room behind her is dark except for one lamp. She looks directly into the camera. "I need to explain," she says. Her voice is steady. "I thought it wanted to replace me. I thought it wanted my life. But that isn't exactly right." She glances towards something off camera. "It wants what we all want, to be seen, to be heard, to stop being locked away in the dark just because it scares someone." A long pause, then she smiles, not widely, not happily, gently. "I'm so tired of being the only one who has to be real." Behind her, a floorboard creaks. Mara turns her head. The video distorts. For 2 seconds, there are 2 voices breathing. Then Mara faces the camera again. But something is wrong. Her posture is different. Her eyes are wider. Her smile is patient and empty. She leans closer. "If you wake up at 3:17, she whispers, "don't check the mirror." The video ends. Mara Collins was never found. Her car remained in the driveway. Her purse was on the counter. Her shoes were lined up neatly by the door. The house was locked from the inside. On the bathroom mirror, written in steam though no shower had been run, were 5 words. "Thank you for the room." The police called it a missing person case. Her doctors called it a tragic psychiatric break. Her sister called it something else. Because 3 weeks after Mara vanished, Lena woke in her own bed at 3:17 in the morning. Her husband slept beside her. The house was quiet. The bathroom light was on. And from beneath the door came the soft sound of someone crying. Not loudly, not theatrically, just the exhausted little sobs of someone who had been waiting a very long time to be let out. Lena did not move. She did not call out. She did not check the mirror. She lay very still, staring into the dark, while a voice from the bathroom whispered her name. Once, twice. Then, in a voice that sounded almost like Mara's, it said, "Please don't make me sleep alone." And somewhere in the hallway, just beyond the bedroom door, something began to crawl. So, dear wanderer of the dark, before you close your eyes tonight, remember, not every haunting comes from an old house, a graveyard, or a cursed object. Some things are built slowly inside us, room by room, silence by silence, until one night they learn the shape of our voice.